Captain Aleksandr Zuyev was a MiG-29 pilot stationed at a military airbase in the Georgian Soviet Socialist Republic. At the time, he was married to the base commander's daughter. Although he was nicknamed Napoleon the son-in-law and received special attention because of this, there were serious conflicts in his marriage. Furthermore, he was under intense psychological pressure from his father-in-law regarding both his military career and private life. Professionally, he was far from at peace. Driven by these overwhelming circumstances, Zuyev made up his mind to defect from his country and seek asylum in the United States. On the night of May 20, 1989, he chose the perfect moment to execute his plan, the guard shift rotation. This was a time when all pilots, technicians, and security personnel gathered together. Zuyev walked into the guard duty room and told his fellow comrades that his wife was pregnant. He brought a cake to celebrate the occasion with them. However, he had laced the cake with a high dose of sleeping pills. Within a short time, all of his friends in the room fell into a deep sleep. Thinking he was completely alone, Zuyev headed toward the aircraft. However, he crossed paths with a guard who either hadn't eaten the cake or hadn't been affected by the drug yet. A shootout erupted between them, and Zuyev was wounded in the arm. Despite his injury, he managed to neutralize the guard. Bleeding and in pain, Zuyev climbed into the cockpit, started the MiG-29's engines, and took off immediately. To evade Soviet air defense systems and prevent them from shooting him down, he flew the aircraft at a very low altitude over the Black Sea. Although 4 MiG-29s were scrambled to intercept and shoot him down just 7 minutes after his takeoff, they could not catch him within Soviet airspace and were forced to turn back. After a treacherous flight of about 240 kilometers, Zuyev entered Turkish airspace and made an emergency landing at Trabzon airport. As he crawled out of the cockpit, covered in blood, his very first words, intended to state his request for asylum, were, "I am an American officer." This breathtaking escape instantly threw Turkey into the middle of a massive diplomatic crisis between the United States and the Soviet Union. Zuyev's landing in Trabzon had the impact of a diplomatic bombshell in Ankara. Moscow demanded the immediate return of both the pilot and the aircraft, while Washington was eager to inspect the MiG-29, the most valuable military prize of the Cold War. The Soviets put heavy pressure on Turkey, warning that relations would be severely damaged if the aircraft were not returned. Turkey pursued a highly delicate and strategic balance of power between the two superpowers. Without giving U.S. officials any opportunity to inspect the aircraft, Turkey returned the MiG-29 to the Soviet Union within a few days. However, while the plane was sent back, Turkey refused to return the wounded pilot to the Soviets. Following his medical treatment, Zuyev's defection to the United States was secured through diplomatic channels. After arriving in the United States, Zuyev provided critical intelligence and counseling to the American aviation industry and the U.S. military regarding Soviet combat tactics and the capabilities of the MiG-29. He even wrote a book about his experiences titled Fulcrum, a Top Gun pilot's escape from the Soviet Empire. Sadly, in 2001, he lost his life in a civilian aircraft accident in the United States. Zuyev's defection exposed the structural weaknesses of the Soviet regime and went down in history as one of the biggest military and diplomatic scandals that accelerated the collapse of the Soviet Union. It later caused a major governance crisis in the Kremlin and led to massive purges within the Soviet military ranks.